So, hey everybody, how are we doing? Hope you're doing well. I hope our streaming setup here is pretty good. Switching over to the new computer tonight, so you're going to want to tune in to Shuffle Up and Heal tomorrow night. Hopefully, the whole new setup will be there, and want to make sure that everything is running smoothly. You're going to go to tbrandonruss.com. You're going to sign up for the email list. By the way, some of you actually got the info earlier today that I'm going to be on here on the live thing. By the way, I want to thank everybody for the support on really the past two studio produced Pope videos, both to acknowledge Pope Francis and his passing, and then with Pope Leo in his installment. You guys have really been jumping on here and saying hello and supporting it and really running up the algorithm with that. I really appreciate it. Clearly, I have to do more videos like that. That kind of analysis takes a little bit of time to pull together, but once I pull it together and put it out there, it's a pretty cool thing. Yeah, so hey, everybody, Jim, Elaine, Phoenix, we'll stick to your screen name. Michelle, hope you got your stuff. Judy, Kathy, Brenda, Janet, good to see you. Hope you got your stuff. Let's see. Shar, see you there. Lala, Linda, good to see you too. Monica, thanks so much for tuning in and becoming a member. By the way, becoming a member supports us here. Thanks so much for doing that. I really appreciate it. Monica, Arias Miranda, thank you so much. Keep going back here, and I'm seeing some. You guys just turn it into a chat fest, and I love that about you guys. And thank you for all of the new members, the people that are watching, so forth and so on. I really appreciate it. Go to tbrandonruss.com. Make sure you sign up for the email list. Make sure that you, if you want to get in, I'm running a one-day special right now for anybody that wants to sign up for the Understanding Bereavement. It took $25 off, so it's only $74. Still at 11, everybody. Good night. Mwah. And then also, really just kind of doing this as a one-day thing. So this time tomorrow, it actually shuts off, so you want to make sure you do it. And then also, still have the Amazing Teachers call out still. We still have that book still open. We're going to get jumped into this here in a couple of weeks. This, of course, as you know, is a compilation book of amazing teacher stories. If there's a mentor or someone you'd like to honor with the story, this is a great compilation to it. You'll be published with me. I am the lead author in it. And then you guys can, there's a lot of fun stuff on how to do this. And moreover, we had to push back a little bit because we realized that we were super aggressive with our dates, saying, hey, we can fit it in, but we wanted to make sure we did it right and get everybody on board here. Debbie, thanks so much for tuning in. Debbie, and then another Debbie. Look at this. Everybody's named Debbie today. What is this? You're enjoying this. Well, I hope you do, because on the energy report, this is a very kind of interesting thing when I do the media or when I do the energy report. And by the way, oh, there it is. Ah, there's my face. Anyways, it's supposed to be in the upper right-hand corner. How about if I do it this way and go bink? There we go. Up there in the upper left. Anyways, back to me. Yeah, the energy report is my look at the current astrology and why things are being affected the way they are. I also have no problem calling things out. I also have no problem applauding things that are going right. I think it's super easy to be critical of things. So if you're new here, I hope you like my style. Most people stick around for that style. And I really kind of am pulling for the right things to happen. Also, you'll see in the latest email, I have a link to all of the new events from now until the end of June. July is kind of a dicey time for me because I've got some travel coming up with the kids. And then I also have some things with, I've got a couple of surprises coming up here. So I am going to be announcing those things here shortly. But more importantly, I've been working on the fall. My fall is basically booked. I am going to be doing some very interesting media things. And of course, more than a media is going to be launching. That'll be the home of all of my podcast stuff and all that other jazz. We have some great guests that are going to be on there. We also have some contributing podcasters. Been working really hard on this, and I think you guys are going to like where I go with this, because I am supercalifragilistic, extra optimistic. And if you don't like that, it's trademark now. There we go. Anyways, guys, so here we go. Let's roll out some things here. Like, what in the heck fire is going on there? Hey, Jerry, how are you? No, I didn't cut my hair. but it's coming, guys. It is coming. I am gonna, before the end of the summer, this is gonna be gone. I'm just letting you know. I like it because I feel like I'm 15 again, which is the point. But in a longer, um, doing more of, um, gonna go back to kind of some of that classic look, but you'll understand. Like I am. This is a little bit calculated. When you guys see, understand why it is I did what I did. It is all to get ready for the 5115 poetry book that is going to be out in June. Those headshots are coming next week because we're putting the stamp on it. Even though editors around here get a little panicky when I say stuff like that, but here we are. But glad you're in, glad you're subscribed. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share this with a friend. And I'm going to do something a little bit different with this video. I've noticed that there's more traction when you post a video as opposed to doing a live. So when I'm done with this, I'm going to download it and then actually re-up it again as a downloaded content. Hopefully then this will also, hopefully I'll get rid of all the stagger stuff. And by the way, new computer tomorrow. We're going to test it full bore, everybody. We're going to dive right in 2 feet. I'm going to have everything else. But anyways, without further ado, we're going to go to this. What? How about this? No, that's not going to work. How about this? That's better, I think. Hold on a second. This isn't going to work. We need to go like this, and then we make this a little... Can we make this big? Is it like dancing? See, this is why I need a competent editor. And then I have one. I'm just not utilizing them right now. Not in the current. Here we go. So I think that will, I'm going to save this. I'm going to update the layout. I hope that's a little better. Anyways, what can we talk about today? So first of all, about the astrology. And you know what I'm going to do? I am going to make this bigger because I want to make sure that everybody can see this. Okay, we're going to save this for now. When I start talking about the people in the news, well, then here we go. So one of the challenges that we have right now is really going to get exposed right now. Astrologically speaking, give me just a second to kind of geek out on the astrology of what's going on. Right now in Taurus, the sun is in Taurus, we have the full moon in Scorpio. So with that in mind, and of course, as we know from our copious amounts of astrology lessons that I give you for free right here, the moon in opposition to the sun sign makes it a full moon. When it is conjunct, then it is in the same sign. Well, in this case, Taurus opposition is Scorpio. That's what it is. The exact timing of it, and by the way, us astrology geeks, and by the way, I don't know if I'm an astrology master, but I'm certainly a geek with it. I apply it to my teaching, I apply it to my coaching, I help people along in everything that they do based on the astrology, not so much because I think the astrology is the end all to be all, but it shows tendencies and value systems that you might be able to catch on and make changes that you need to. Now, as you can see this, we geek out on this with the exact time. The exact time is somewhere in the afternoon today, shortly before 1 o'clock. You have the sun in the 9th house here, which is about education, knowledge, being able to explore, having kind of a spiritual enlightenment, if you will. And in opposition to that, we have the moon sitting here in the 3rd house, which is about communication. It could also mean about particular members of the family that you were raised with, whether they be siblings or maybe close cousins or what have you. But this is really a cusper position, because if we go another even say 15 minutes, we're in the 10th house and the 4th house, which really changes the defined definition of what's going on right here. The sun being in the 9th and the moon being in the 3rd reflects on the knowledge of things being communicated properly. This is an unlock code. And with a lot of things with astrology, what it tends to do is show itself and then the energy catches up. You might get a little bit of it maybe the day or a couple of days before, but what this is doing, this is about exposure. This is about showing people kind of like who they are and what they're about. Again, it's the energy in the sky. Does it apply to everybody? Yes, in some degree, but how much it impacts you, it's obviously going to impact the late earth signs. You know, those of you that are late, either late Capricorns, obviously late Taurus, or late Virgos. It will also culminate water signs in more of an emotional response. And again, if you're a Scorpio moon, certainly it's going to be encompassing. But any of the water signs, any of the Cancer moons, late Cancer or late Pisces moon, you're going to get that influx of kind of emotional, kind of like oh, I got to get my stuff together, so to speak. So this is also one of the other interesting things about this is that you have this kind of this breaking up stellium that's going on between Venus, Neptune, and Saturn. Now we've got a little bit of a reprieve, although the Scorpio full moon is a little intense. We get a little bit of a reprieve on all of these value system things that we seem to have been going through. The value of like trying to make decisions, trying to think you're going to play by the rules. You might have been challenged at work. You might have been challenged in your love life. You might have been challenged in, your family dynamics. You might have gone through a relationship thing with your body, depending upon your placements, because you might have been going through, it's like, I love tacos. And then you're like, yeah, well, how many can we maybe just love one taco to, that sort of thing. And that, of course, is a challenge for some people, just like when you get wrapped up in the dynamics of like, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and damn it, I deserve it, and what's too much. That is part of the energy going on with what's going on here in the eighth house. And it's not a surprise that in the eighth house, representing sex, death, taxes, and kind of anything externally emotional that you might connect with, that Saturn is kind of loosening its grip on Venus, because it is moving to a wide conjunct, eventually to a not conjunct at all. This is loosening up those reins and allowing it to kind of be, here you go. But, and kind of like Venus can kind of Venus again without being constrictive. Now, what's also happening is that Saturn is still connected to the North Node. Saturn is going to be moving beyond retrograde here shortly, and that's going to give it the opportunity to kind of be like, okay, we've kind of done our Pisces thing. We've got to move into the age of Aquarius. It is the last time it is in Aquarius, or last time it's in that sign, Pisces, for another 30 years. So this is one last grip to kind of turn things upside down for you personally. But as this kind of moves in, and by the way, this has wreaked havoc on any of the late water signs, any of the mutables, big time in the late mutables. If you're a late Virgo, late Gemini, you are absolutely in a position where you're starting to say like, oh no, late Sagittarius, you are definitely going like, okay, enough with the up is down and down is up part of it. But back on the moon, the moon is also conjunct to Vesta here, or to Juno here, which means, and Juno is sitting in the fourth house here, which means that, this is a time to really shed some light on family secrets. This is a time for you to kind of deal with some of the stuff that has gone on in the family, whether it be by marriage or by blood, to start to kind of say like, hey, you know what, here we go. Now, the sun being conjunct to Uranus here is also speaking to everything that's going on for that. This is a great time to get this out in the open. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be comfortable. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be a little painful. What I think that this is going to mean to people like Donald Trump is that his family could stab him in the back, because he has these Gemini placements, and his rising sign really being, actually his rising is probably not too dissimilar from where this is. This is at a 29-degree Leo, which, by the way, thank you very much for having that full moon in Scorpio with a Leo rising at 29 degrees. This means that you're going to be forceful about how it is that you approach these things. These are going to be the things that are going to kind of push you forward and be like, you know what, fuck this, I'm not dealing anymore. I'm going to push through this. I'm either going to thrill it or kill it, man. And that's okay. Energetically, there are times, and this is what I was talking about, when you take the opportunity to ride the wave of astrology. This is the exact thing that I'm talking about. You might not have in your chart a strong, let's say, outward production of like who you are, what your faith system is. You might be a very private person when it comes to this. This energy actually allows you to go like, yeah, I think this is a good time. So with that in mind, this is a conversation when you start to kind of like just pull apart all the layers that have been building up for a long time. This is kind of like a routine maintenance placement for me, where you're kind of going, you know what? We're not going to let things get a little too out of control. We're going to make sure we address them. We're going to release the pressure. Maybe you don't want to do the deep dive, but if you do, not surprising. If you want to kind of go down the point of like revealing, I think some people are going to reveal who they are by being able to connect the dots, right? You might be able to kind of say, like, okay, listen, I'm going to do a deep dive and understand that. It doesn't have to be painful. It does not have to be revelatory. It needs to be direct. It needs to coincide the idea of good strength and follow through, which is right here, is where the algal fixed star is, which is dancing right there, right where Uranus is right now. So you have the sun conjunct to this. You also have some things where people are going to rear their ugly head. And listen, some people have just been assholes the last 72 hours to me. Just assholes. Yeah, we don't have to get into specifics, but for whatever reason, they feel the need that no matter how many opportunities they had to address something, they chose to wait until now to address them. Or they wanted to like save up until a rainy day when they didn't feel good so they could take it out on other people. And I just kind of laugh. And honestly, I've built up the immune system to just be like, all right, you be you. Thanks for watching. And it is what it is. Um, One of the things that you can also kind of recognize with this is that you've still got the trine energy of Mars to Venus, which is still going to amp up things. That's why I said like relationships could still kind of have a little bit of a hit. But then you also have Mars lending itself to, you have it lending itself to Mercury, and it is square to the sun. So there's a lot of amped up energy. And by the way, it's a wide square at this point, but the sun has been making this square, or I should say, Mars has been working this square to the sun for a little bit now. That's why this week has been so unduly crazy. The good news is that Mars is moving away from being in opposition of Pluto, which is just an angry factory and a deception kind of thing where it's like, you're just gonna want to hurt people and not pay the consequences for it. And that's not okay. That's not great energy in the sky. We go through it every year, right? We go through it, on the regular, every single time Mars transits. Um, but this one felt a little different, I think, right? Um, and I think that we've seen it in the politics as well. Um, because one of the things that I think people are not recognizing, and part of the things that we're truly kind of railing against here in our society, is very much, yes, I'm changing my layout here, is how unchecked things are. And by the way, the word steamroller seems to be very appropriate with these things now, with what's going on in society. Hey, how about this steamroller? Enter Caroline Levitt. Caroline Levitt was born in 1997. I just want you to let that all sink in. The person that Donald Trump chose to be a spokesperson is a child. I mean, granted, she's now 27. She turns 28 this year. So big pants are on, and yes, I'm making fun of it. Um, that cross is second to none. She went to St. Alzan up in New Hampshire, which is a very prestigious and private school after going to Catholic private schools her entire career. Um, Ouch. You guys are brutal. I love how you guys say things that I can't say, like KK Caroline. Um, She was married a few days before the Trump's second inauguration. It kind of fit into their schedule. She got married on the Saturday, I think. Congratulations. He is 43 years older than you. So it's a race to the finish. Oh, by the way, she had a child the year before that in 2024. And the math, she's a good Christian girl. Is what I think I'm trying to say. And by the way, I don't criticize people. I mean, you do you. I don't. I mean, she made a choice, and her choice was to gold dig. I mean, to have the child, and having a degree in communication, and I think she had a minor in poli sci. Um, which okay, great. She ran on a pro-Trump platform in a failed House run in New Hampshire in 2022, and she lost by a landslide. She lost by a landslide. She received 33% of the vote, 34% of the vote in the primary, and then when she ran against the incumbent Democrat, she garnered 43%, which, by the way, is considered a landslide. Anything more than 4.5 points is considered a landslide. So she got hammered. She got nailed. Um, she also had a child the year before she got married. And again, I don't criticize. I just want to make sure that everybody has that context here. And I don't judge. I mean, again, she made a choice. I mean, maybe she didn't do it because she's I don't know, a good Christian girl. I mean, wake up, Virginia. I mean, a 43-year-old senior might as well be the one, because only the good. Why am I talking about her? I'm talking about her because she said the most asinine, most inhumane, most ridiculous, I don't get it, I can't read the room fucking thing I've ever heard. Are you ready? Ready? Because here we go. She, in her announcement to remove the director of the Library of Congress, decided to take potshots at her for DEI hiring. Then she went on to basically say that as a librarian, she was making books accessible to children that were of questionable nature. She clearly, in one public statement, explained in depth that she has no clue what the Library of Congress is. She heard the word library, just like her boss heard the word asylum and thought they must be in crazy house. So like a big dumb animal, she went out there, knuckles dragging and all. I mean, after all, she's got to have a strong back. You got to have a strong back if you're going to take care of somebody 43 years older than you, a 1-year-old, and carry that cross on your boobs. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there, everybody. A couple of observations. You make the call. However, if you're going to go out there and criticize a well-educated woman in academia, you better come more with than just basically saying you give bad books to kids. Because if you know anything about the Library of Congress, you understand its importance in the United States history. Not only is it a historical annals to things, it is also an opportunity for things to go on record, to be kept for posterity. Like, say, for instance, this beautiful, oh, I'm sorry, time for a commercial break. By the way, this book right here was sent to the Library of Congress yet last week. Don't think so? Hold on a second, please hold. All rights reserved. Anybody that was named in this is done in fictional nature, except for, of course, Brandon, because he's kind of a cool dude. The Library of Congress control number is 2025-909851. You can look it up as soon as they receive it. By the way, my ISBN number is 979-899-1233866. You can look it up. By the way, go ahead and head out there to Amazon, amazon.com, and go ahead and get the book. Or if you would like a signed copy, just drop me a note. I'll make sure you guys get it. So the Library of Congress control number allows a book just like this that you can also own to be entered into historical context. Now, who does this? Well, people like me. Who does this? Reference guides. By the way, the Library of Congress is largely, if for nothing else, a reference guide. Let's just say somebody wanted to do a paper or research study understanding how mediumship evolved over the 20th century. You into the 2000s, into the how did it go from point A to point B. They would start out with things from, say, Edgar Casey or I want to say Levin. It's not Leavenworth. It's Levendale. Um, Anyways, it's not Lilydale. Don't interrupt me. But some of the early writers of mediumship and how it kind of came to be, and then you would end with, you'd go through your Sylvia Browne, and you would end up here somewhere around. Funny you should say that, in the evolution of things. I think it fits in that because I'm telling firsthand accounts of how readings impacted and actually were the bridge for healing. It's ironic because this book has been banned in 3 states. And by banned, I mean they have a specific list to not be allowed in places like libraries and cannot be out in public, say in the state of Texas. Florida has to have rules, regulations, and guidelines to warn you that I deal with the occult. Meanwhile, the Bible is freely sold and talks about dead people rising. None of this makes logical sense. Just like none of it makes logical sense that this twit, and by the way, I chose the I instead of the A, but you can put a waffle after it. But this twit decided to criticize this accomplished woman. Dr. Carla Hayden received her undergrad and her doctorate from Chicago University. She was appointed to the Library of Congress in 2016. Now, I just really broad brush stroke just to kind of give you a feel. During that time, when she had received her degree, I believe in 1972, or her undergrad degree in 72, and then her doctorate in 76, she had worked exclusively for libraries and school districts to help them understand how education can be handed off to people. She worked tirelessly, not only with Chicago, but also she was appointed to a public library system in Baltimore, Maryland. And she understood the shortfalls of funding. By the way, she was appointed by Barack Obama, who, from Chicago, understood the importance and the handshake deals that had to happen between corporations and libraries. So much so that during her time in the Library of Congress, she actually made more public celebrity deals, such as Linda Carter, such as Dolly Parton, such as Lee Emmerich. She worked with people that were known for something else to come in and try and inspire people to read, whether it be talking about their own stories about writing, talking about their favorite books, being able to be of high profile, that got people into libraries. What she did was remarkable because she actually understood that public funding was going to be limited, not only in the short term, but also in the long term. She decided to go a little bit more corporate, which is why the first week in June, I'm going to be speaking at a public library because in Cohoes, New York, Wednesday night, you'll all get the email. I want to be able to tell stories about my book and kind of inspire people to either write their own stories or be able to present or be able to just understand knowledge that they otherwise weren't exposed to. The reason why I choose to do that is because I think I have a direct responsibility to be able to talk about my journey for this and inspire others. This is a type of lexicon that Carla Hayden presented to libraries. By the way, 20 years ago, they didn't necessarily do stuff like this. Sure, you might have gotten a local author, but participating in author talks, so then you can ask questions about writing and inspiration and that sort of thing. It's almost more of like a podcast when you go to these things, right? Now, received over 13 honorary letters and doctorates from various colleges and universities. She's also received over 50 library service awards. In other words, this is a person that has been committed to the mission of public libraries to understand how libraries work and how research is very important, not only for her historical value, but also in our consistent and continual learning. That we can't get to the next level without understanding the level that we're at now. Dr. Carla Hayden absolutely embraced that. And she was fired for a completely made up story. And because of a really benign yet not actually applied DEI policy. She was not hired because she was black. She was not hired because she's a woman. She was hired because she was fucking qualified, abundantly qualified, and carried the torch for others to follow. This, among all of the other ridiculous misappointments, is a slap in the face of knowledge. Do not think that this is not a battle of knowledge, because the Library of Congress also holds the accurate depiction of what happened on January 6, 2020, along with the gripes of the Trump administration. It was really only a matter of time. And by the way, she was set to retire this time next year because her appointment would have been over. Donald Trump could have waited until then, but maybe he knows something that we don't know, and that is that maybe he might not be here during that time, right? Not only is she qualified, she was a beacon, and that is a threat. Because when you're a beacon of truth, of sheer honesty, then all of a sudden you're a troublemaker. Pay attention. Let us move on to the next story here, and let's talk about FEMA for a moment. Now, FEMA is a very important arm of our government. And by the way, FEMA actually had its legs cut out from underneath it when U.S. aid kind of went under, when Trump unceremoniously dismantled it. Why, do you say? Well, this is how FEMA got money to organizations that were going to be able to help community. Was there waste? Hell yeah. Did every bottle of water get to the right people? No. Did every dime get to the right person? No. But it was a pretty good system, and at least it had an outlet for us to be able to help others. Enter Cameron Hamilton, who was one of the first appointees of the Trump administration. Now, he was in the Navy from 2005, that's supposed to be in 2005, everybody, to 2015. He served the Navy for 10 years. And by the way, he got really good at logistics and management, ground management. He was a FEMA ranking operations until 2025 from 2015. So he worked under the Obama administration, but wasn't appointed for anything. He worked under the Trump administration and certainly during the Biden. So then he was appointed by Trump in 2025. I think it was actually like January 23rd. He was literally one of the first things that Trump did. And by the way, he was fired just a couple of days ago on May 8th because he contradicted Trump when he testified in front of Congress and said these simple words. Actually, FEMA provides a lot of relief for the United States citizen, and therefore I do not recommend it to be done away with. There is value in FEMA, and we must continue it. He basically signed his own warrant. He basically explained in one flail swoop by standing up to Donald Trump in an official capacity that only sycophants may apply. So, and by the way, he was very critical of the Biden administration during some of the hurricanes, of how it was managed and how relief didn't actually get to where it needed to, that it was kind of diverted or whatever. But more positive happened with FEMA than negative. And true to form, Donald Trump thinks that if there is one flaw, one hiccup, instead of improvement, he actually just destroys it, which is an ongoing theme with all of this. He doesn't work with what he has. He just can't comprehend the idea of it being a change agent, which, by the way, for a Gemini is a deadly combination, because as a mutable, he should naturally be able to see this. As a Leo rising, he should have the charge in order to see it. Man yet of the education department, stay tuned. I have a feeling that one's coming. Right. So enter in the solution. He kind of looks like Pete Hetzig's uncle. Enter in your own commentary there. So David Richardson, who was named minutes after terminating Cameron here, he had worked for the Department of Homeland Security. Do you see kind of this bulldog mentality of the Department of Homeland Security here? He was an artillery officer in the Iraq War, and I want to drill this down a little bit. The press releases The press releases connected to David Richardson talked about his service during Iraq and his leadership and officer role. I want to explain to you what a artillery officer does. And by the way, I am not belittling artillery officers. I am not. They are a valuable part of the United States military. However, his time in the Marines was spent as a drill sergeant, basically, as an artillery sergeant. He is the one that counted the bombs at night to make sure we still had all of them. He is the one that would count the magazines to see if anyone shot bullets they shouldn't have. He was the one that would sit there and say, okay, well, you a good shot today, so guess what, soldier? You good. You have extra potatoes. I am not belittling him. I'm just telling you like it is. Although an important job, he was not necessarily the top rank of leadership. That's my point. Once again, the Trump administration talks about how great his leadership ability is. Based on the amount of bourbon I smell right now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you he gets the first shot. There are stories about him and his inability to comprehend and carry out some of his leadership duties, aside from it's just an order. He has shown time and time again to be a simpleton when it comes to order following. And all of those things have gotten him to where he is. And I don't want to criticize them, but is it meant to be a leader of maybe the United States citizens that are going to need our help? We are headed into the hurricane season right now, and this man is now in charge of making sure that you get aid, whether it be water or whether it be equipment to your neighborhood, whether it is to get military inference for protection, or if it's money to help you get back on your feet. This guy's in charge now. He's such a great leader that in his first address of his new department, for him, he made an impression by, instead of taking questions from everyone, and by the way, someone had asked, how do you feel your leadership style will work with a large organization like this? I'm interested to see, are we running more like a military operation, or are we working to find solution-based requirements? What are we doing? And his response was a very threatened answer. And David Richardson basically said, well, you know what? Maybe on our next conference call, we can play Stump the Chump. And I can take all you guys out because I'm smarter than the rest of you. He also threatened everybody by saying, don't you dare get in my way. There's 20% of this organization that just gets in the way all the time. You will not be here. The only thing I can say to that is Heil. Because that's not how good leadership is. Conscious leadership actually pays attention. It listens. It reacts as it assimilates. And that doesn't mean that it's malleable at its core. That's the whole thing as to why consciousness is so important. Because you know who the fuck you are. This guy talked about how powerful he was because the president said so. FEMA's in trouble, everybody. Homeland Security's in trouble. And by the way, Kristi Noem appointed him directly. She suggested him and said he's such a good soldier. No telling how much money he had on him in his purse, right? And by the way, those of you that haven't heard my take on Trump's appointees, they have all been appointed to be blamed. They have all been set up for disaster, for failure. They have all been set up so that then they can be a scapegoat for whatever it is that gets close to Donald Trump. Now, I'm just wondering how many of you have actually gotten your enhanced license now? Who here is able to fly? And by the way, if you have your passport, then you can fly anytime, anywhere, right? Well, let's talk about our relationships with Qatar, as they call it. Not guitar, not cater. It is Qatar. And by the way, Qatar is actually a peninsula off the coast of Africa and is considered part of Asia. Thank you very much, National Geographic, for explaining that to me. I happened to get out a book from the National Archives sponsored by the Library of Congress. That's where I learned everything I had to know about Qatar. You know what else I learned about Qatar? I learned that the country, or the state, it's called the state of Qatar, has been funding the resistance of the Houthis and trying to abolish parts of Yemen and keeping Yemen safe. Now, they don't full on support the Houthis. What they do is they support Yemen citizens in the country of Yemen. Who did we bomb a couple of weeks ago? Oh, wait, hold on a second. Let me just pull up my signal chat. Gonna bomb the Houthis back to Hoot and Hand Knees. Oh, thanks, Pete. Thanks for letting me know. Well, what do you know, everybody? There's a direct line from the attack just a few weeks ago in Qatar. And by the way, Qatar, as part of their reward system, likes to give out planes. Donald Trump has been bitching about Air Force One, about how it's not the best in the state of art and we should be the best and blah, blah, blah. And by the way, he wants to put in an escalator, go straight up so then he can come straight down. You saw what I did. Why stop there? He bitched and complained that Air Force One was a problem, that it was not state of the art, that it was not retrofitted. And oh, by the way, it is full of recording devices that he can't get to. Unlike the Oval Office, where he ripped out basically every recording device, which, by the way, was put in specifically to protect the president. And why would you take out all your recording equipment? Because you're planning on doing something that's not so good. Haha. The Qatar government giving Donald Trump a plane flies in the face of our Constitution. Now, before you get all kind of uppity about it, the foreign emulations or emominent, can't buy gifts, which, by the way, actually resonates not necessarily from gift giving, but actually being given cross-promotional placements in governments. In other words, you can't be knighted. You can't suddenly become, the Duke of Wellington or any of that stuff, because that would give proof of favor from another government. Then over time, and by the way, Lincoln was one of the first ones to actually challenge this. He said, I got this really cool thing. And then they said, no, you can't keep it. He's like, damn it. And they said, okay, well, we'll put it in the Library of Congress. True fucking story. And then he went, okay, but I don't ever want to come across like I wasn't, a good president. Not this guy. He doesn't give a shit. By the way, look at how small he is compared to the plane, right? With all the handling of Donald Trump, from everything from his shady shit deals, from his trademark deals back in 2017, when he actually got industrial level support from Congress to have trademarks that he could grift on in other countries, so that then he would be able to enforce them from the Oval Office around the world to force payment to him for using his name. What he failed to recognize is that he has to become a household name. And that every single time I say Donald Trump, he doesn't make a dime, pisses him off. So what he did is he decided to trademark certain parts of his name and certain placements of his name, so that then, let's just say, if Dubai talks about Trump Tower, then he would get a nickel every time somebody walked through the door. This isn't about our freedoms. Donald Trump is not about the United States. Donald Trump is about Donald Trump. And don't think that he's about his family. He's not. Don't think he's about his constituents. He's not. Don't think he's about his supporters. He's not. He has literally betrayed every single class of voter that put him in office. From the farmers to the small business class, from the middle class, even the upper class. Oh, by the way, tick tock, Elon, it's almost midnight. I'm going to predict that he is going to be summarily dismissed before the end of May. I'm thinking Memorial Day weekend. Or when something else comes out. Meanwhile, he's been grifting and deflecting everything that he has done by pardoning criminals, by throwing shade everywhere else under the sun, to ignore the concrete information that the FBI is fully aware of. And for whatever reason, Joe Biden, whether you want to call him a class act or just a forgotten old man, chose not to release the Epstein files, probably because he has friends on there. Donald Trump doesn't want them released fully because he's on there. Everyone makes a big deal about the pilot logs of the private plane that Epstein owned back and forth from New York City, Miami, wherever. What they haven't revealed is Donald Trump's logs to Epstein Island. He didn't need Epstein's plane. He had his own. And guess what? Qatar is giving him a plane that doesn't have any of the markings, because if you follow the second Air Force One, or the second Trump plane, I'm sorry, not the Air Force One, but the one that he used during the cross-country flights and everything else, was one of the Epstein planes. It was stripped down and repurposed. So Donald Trump knows a little something about the quality of an airplane, the value of a plane. I mean, after all, he drove an entire airline into the ground. And for record, I'm here to tell you that he actually had a really great, smart business plan. He was flying shuttle from Boston to New York, from New York to Philadelphia, from Boston to Philadelphia, and then down to Washington. He only had like 4 cities, and all he was doing was just jettisoning people back and forth. He was taking the commuter train people, or the commuters that would come in for the week and then go home on the weekend, and he was giving them a $49 ticket. It was a brilliant plan until his planes broke, because he didn't actually invest in the planes. He invested in the marketing. He's not investing in the United States. He's investing in the marketing. That's why, and make no mistake about it, is why you hire this to do your spokesperson work. She doesn't understand it, and she doesn't have the education to understand that this woman is accomplished and educated. This man had enough balls to say, actually, I disagree with you. And then he installed somebody that said, I do what you want, master. And by the way, make no mistake about this. This is planned. Putting ignorant people in place is a planned response, because this way you always have someone to blame. And isn't that how Donald Trump got as far as he has? It's time for us to wake up and pay attention, because these are all of the small things that are adding up daily. Some of us got it from the beginning. But when is the tipping point going to happen that Trump supporters finally turn around and say, holy shit, there might be something to all of these things, that he never actually does anything for others. It's all about his own grift. He'd prefer to get things caught up in the trial system, in the court system, than actually get to the bottom of anything, because that's where accountability is. He doesn't want to get to the bottom of anything. He just wants to grift, play his golf that we play for, and have a fucking parade. By the way, I'm going to be doing a special on why, astrologically, the presidential parade is actually the worst of times for him. I'm kind of enjoying this. All right, guys. Every day is a tipping point. I love that. I want to give you guys a heart tap, and I'm going to invite you to come back tomorrow when I do Shuffle Up and Heal. I got the new equipment. It's sitting right here in a box. Can't wait to get all my lights up. And by the way, I'm going to be working hard on this all day to make sure that I actually have a production for it. I want to thank you guys for helping me along, and I want to give you the heart taps to remind everyone that we love and care for each other, and that whenever we're down, we know that we can hear the words, keep going. And we know it's going to be better at the end. And we know that it's just a human condition that helps us get from point A to point B. And thank God we all have each other for this. We can't rely on government, and we can't wait for somebody else to come and save us. We have to do the work. But to know that you guys are cheering me on makes me want to do it every day. So again, I'm going to give you the heart taps and remind you to love and care for each other. Keep going. See you tomorrow. Thanks, guys.